Hello and welcome to Upstage Downstage.
With me, Richard Platt, seated in the upper circle.
And me, Stephen Rees, seated in a cheap seat. This is the Theatre Podcast, where we discuss productions we've seen, things we've liked and may not have liked, giving our complete unprofessional and non-biased opinions.
So grab a brew, take a seat and let's raise that curtain. On today's episode, we'll be discussing The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel. We saw this production at Sheffield Lyceum Theatre on the 16th of September 2022. Based on the Sunday Times bestseller, which inspired one of this century's most treasured films, The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel takes us on a journey to India with an eclectic group of British retirees as they embark on a new life. So Stephen, what's it all about?
The luxury residence is far from the opulence they were promised, but as their lives begin to intertwine, they are charmed in unexpected and life-changing ways. The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel is a joyous comedy about taking risks, finding love and embracing second chances, even in the most surprising of places.
But first, our post-show opinion!
Yeah, it felt underwhelming. So with all that said, let's
Set the scene!
Right then, The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel, Richard.
Can I stop
We're
you
here
there?
to stay. Oh,
Do you really have to say best?
it's what's advertised.
Carry on.
Right, let's get into this. Okay, so we went to see this, which we've already said where we're at. Now, were we in the top tier or something? No, there was one more above us.
Yeah, we're in the circle. The balcony's above us.
Yeah, so and we're right at the very back, and those seats are really uncomfortable. They were so tight.
Yeah, I felt like my knees were in my nose.
Yeah, pretty much in your knees. In your knees?
In your knees? Yeah, my knees were in my nose.
Your knees are in your nose, if not up somebody else's. No, oh dear. I've gone there already. No, anyway, back to the story. So, we're here at the best, apparently, exotic Marigold Hotel. The set was lovely, wasn't it?
It was amazing.
That was.
I mean, yet again, this was another one where the curtain was shut when you walked in, so you didn't actually see that bit.
Yeah.
But the actual set was luxurious, luscious. It felt like a hotel that had been there for years because it was starting to fall to pieces.
Yes.
You could see the lath and plaster, in the ceiling where it was starting to actually come away, and it wasn't just cut away. It looked like it had been crumbled, but the pillars, the arches, all the staircases, everything wasn't standardly in one area. It was all winding, and
it gave
stage,
a depth in a sort of a square set in a way with the stairs.
Yeah, it
going
felt
around
so
the
much
side.
more than just a square stage, bare empty
there's
stage.
more entrances and exits.
There's levels. There was different bits to perform on, and
they really had one of the best sets to perform in.
Oh yeah, totally.
Really,
yeah. It's one of the better ones I've seen, over my time.
It suited not just the period, because it meant to have
sort of
been
modern
run
day,
down and
aren't
old
we,
anyway.
anyway,
Yeah, but it suited.
Felt
the
like
film
an
and
Indian hotel that had been there a long time. But
it just suited the story.
Yeah,
anyway.
exactly.
But unfortunately, from then on, it just went a bit downhill, exceedingly fast.
The brakes are off.
Okay, so without being too negative, let's start on a positive.
Okay. I'm going to try. Go on
Okay.
then, Stephen.
The understudy, Anand Varman, played Sonny, and we also got Julie Wood playing Jean, and he had his script in hand.
Yeah, we were told that he'd have his script in hand throughout the production.
And the positive is this: he performed as if it wasn't even in his hand.
Oh, it's brilliant.
It mattered not that he had a folder in his hand.
Because he looked like he was working in the hotel, so it didn't actually feel
matter.
like it was
And
not meant to be.
Yeah, he barely looked down at it anyway.
I only noticed the odd occasion when he was on the table where he had it open and nobody had looked, that he was just checking a line, but he wasn't actually reading it. He was just checking his position. It wasn't really it was just a little bit of like, just glanced down, but to the untrained eye, you wouldn't have even seen that. But I think but he did it really cleverly because he was aware of his audience, and I think that was key to that,
Yeah. So already we've sort of skipped a lot and just gone for the performance, which I don't particularly mind doing it, but we're starting with a positive.
Yeah.
And for me, that's No, actually, there's another couple of positives, okay, about this as well.
Is there?
There are, but I'm going to keep that until we talk about the actors.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
let's not do that. Let's not rush ahead.
No, let's not go there yet.
We've set the scene. If ever you get to see the proper set of it online,
If ever
you'll
there's any
understand what we're
budding
talking
set
about.
builders out there or people who want
Can
to
they
work
build
in
my
design,
set? Yeah.
they need to look at this as reference for how to do a set that's got so much depth in the same space as everybody else uses, and it felt so much more than a lot of other people have achieved. So yeah.
Yes. Okay, so the direction. There was an awful lot of walking around, find my place, stand, deliver a line, walk back again.
Yeah,
it
to
was
the
as if
exact
they
same
were
spot.
they were sort of like still acting within 2 meters of each other in a weird way.
Yeah.
At times, it was slightly nauseating.
Yeah, it was,
Not all the time. I'm not going to
there
say
was a
it's
lot
not
of
all the time, but
semicircular acting where they're just acting around
Or just move
each
to
other and
deliver a line and then
stand
move back
forward
again.
to deliver the spot, and stand forward and deliver it, then move back, and yeah, I think this is where we start going downhill when we start talking about this, because
It really is, because we shouldn't be picking up on little bits.
when you've got such
Like
a
that.
lavish and beautiful set,
Exactly.
and the actual performance lets it down,
And yeah.
it felt underwhelming, and I think that wasn't the point.
I think that's the word that sums up this whole production. Underwhelming.
Yeah,
You know,
it was.
I really wanted more
Yeah,
and expected more. But going back to the set, when we first saw it, the like you said, the curtain were down, and all we had was a couple of like squares that resembled like stone tiles or stone
Yeah.
pavements or whatever. So I was thinking at the time, oh, this is going to be a bit of a naff set, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
going to be really a struggle to sit through this. But then the moment the curtains came up, it's like, and then the lights as well, illuminating this lavish set. It was like, wow, this is just so impressive.
Yeah.
I'm really going to enjoy this. And then the acting started, and I wished it stopped.
I think we need to move on to the writing.
Yes, because to be honest, there's nothing much you could really say about the directing other than it just needed a little bit more direction. But I think a lot of it stems from the playwright, and
I really do, because I think that it doesn't matter. You know, the director can only do so much.
yeah,
And if the dialogue and the actual book itself isn't good enough.
Now, the thing is, okay, with this, the concept started off as a book, brilliant book, and then it got made into a film, if not 2 films, because it had a sequel. Brilliant film, okay. Now, when you take that and you adapt it to the stage, you need to know stagecraft. And now, I've said this before on the Shawshank Redemption, or one of the other ones that we've seen, that it just didn't...
translate,
collapsed on the stage. You know, it was just pointless. There needed to have been like a dramaturg or someone able to not necessarily patronisingly teach, but to show ways of writing it in a stage production way, because there's awful lot of exits and entrances that were just left half finished or half arsed. It was, imagine watching Acorn Antiques. It was that kind of thing. Like, I've said my line. Oh, I'll go off now. Or I'm walking off now. I've said it, and then there's like gap, space, gap. You know, it's like an awkward silence, and then the music kicked in once that person had actually left the stage, instead of having a nice transition. I think you can see how awkward the direction is, awkward the action and stuff is, due to the transitions.
But it also felt like they wrote it as using those exits to advance the production, but it didn't.
No.
And I think they used it to...
Do you mean advance the story?
Yeah, advance the story, where they're going off stage to say into the markets or into this or into that. They're relying on those other worlds for it to... Whereas your core of your performance is on stage, and they were relying on all these extra little bits to happen, and it was almost... I felt like it was written in the style of a film, where if it was filmed, you can cut, chop and change, you can tighten things up so that each scene's very visual. You can't do that on stage.
Again, it had those long brooding pauses of moments where it was just nothingness on stage. You know,
was a strange feeling.
Imagine
because,
acting that, because it's like, if someone like loses a line for like a second, it feels like 10 minutes has gone by and no one said anything.
But also,
imagine how it feels as an audience member.
I mean, you start feeling like, have they missed something, or do they not know the lines? Because
do they know where the next scene is headed?
Or do they even understand what they're doing? Because I think that's what it felt like. I felt like the cast didn't necessarily understand.
It needed
performance.
It needed knitting together a hell of a lot better.
Oh, yeah.
It's as if they took the film, they took the scenes out, imported it into a script writing software, exported it back into like a stage play, and it's like, well, these are the scenes, this is the set.
Well, it worked on film.
Yes.
You know,
without having focused on whose journey am I focusing on.
Exactly.
If it's all of them, then let's make sure I give equal amounts of time to all of them, and make sure that their wants, needs, obstacles, and all those kind of like say little writing things that you sort of like everyone's
because
when you put in telling a story through character's journey, you have to make sure that you're ticking their boxes off, making sure that no character gets left behind, and come back to them. And as there's some of the characters that are like they're going to find somebody that they used to know years ago who used to teach them. Well, their intrigue as to where they're going, it wasn't built up, and
it wasn't at all.
We're talking about like the character of Dorothy. She's going off to find her tutor after being, was it a tutor or somebody from the past anyway? And it turns out that she's the gay one, and in the film it was like the male version. However, none of the rest of the group, they didn't gel together, they didn't have a meal together as such, they didn't have that group atmosphere in terms of, well, where's she going? She's a bit sneaky. There was moments of it, but it didn't build up enough.
No, and I think that was the key thing. I think that, like you say, they focused on too much.
Yes.
They didn't focus on things that would have, on stage. One thing I will say is the volumes weren't great from the cast. And I don't know if that's a direction thing, just to perform naturally.
Might it have been technical?
Because it could have been, but I'm thinking if people had got hearing aids, they'd have struggled. They'd have just been watching people walking around the stage, because the dialogue was really difficult sometimes to follow, because it was underacted in a way sometimes. There was a lot of talking quietly, and for something like this, you've got to have strength in storyline for people to follow it.
And it's annoying because it's got a great cast.
It has, yeah.
Some amazing actors. Like, I mean, we're talking about Dorothy. Richenda Carey, she gave a great performance as Dorothy, but it was just underwritten. It was like pointless her being there altogether.
Well, I felt like Rula Lenska's character was thrown away. She's a brilliant performer.
She is.
I felt like
the thing
she needed more dialogue to make her seem so much better. It just felt...
she's meant to be this sort of like not necessarily a diva, but in the film I think it's Celia Emery, but this person who is slightly glamorous, or extremely glamorous, but
very sure
out
of
there
herself,
looking for a man. Yeah, exactly. She took centre stage in terms of out of everybody else.
Yeah, she did.
But her character's journey, it doesn't particularly go anywhere.
No.
There was one scene where she went on a date, and then it's sort of like just
thrown away.
It just stopped. And then it went to the next scene. So she ended up like clearing the table off herself, and it just looked as if she didn't know if she should.
I feel
do it
like
or not,
they spent more time.
The study wasn't doing it.
No, and I feel like they spent more time trying to clear the set than they did actually with the dialogue.
Exactly.
And that's down to the writing. For me, you have to get so much more in on a stage production, because you've almost got to tell people what's happening in a roundabout way sometimes. You can't rely on the visuals to do it for you.
Yeah.
It's about the words. It's about what they say. And,
I think the issue I have with the play, you could use it to your advantage in telling a different story to what you've already written in terms of the film and the book, because you would have like changed essences of them for the film from the book anyway.
Yeah.
But to underpin all their relationships and their connections, each moment where one of them goes off to do what they need personally, you need to then make sure that the rest of the group are connecting extremely well. Even if they sort of fall out, they're falling out extremely well, if that makes sense.
But I think because the set was as lovely as it was and as big as it was, they spread themselves out too much. So you didn't feel the closeness between the cast. I feel like sometimes, they've been told to plonk themselves all over the stage, and it's like to fill it, but that isn't what would happen,
Again, like when there was sunbathing, it just felt a little empty and
it did.
dull.
Yeah.
There was a lot of moments, even when they were trying to earwig Sonny and her girlfriend's date.
Yeah.
Or when he was going... Oh, did he propose? I can't remember now. There were supposed to be these women of a certain age on like a bit of a stone earwigging around the corner. But when they got up to Scarpa, they just did that quickly. If you think about it, if there are women of a certain age, you can make a joke out of that. That they're trying to Scarpa.
And they can't.
But they can't. They need each other to sort of like help each other up because they've got aches and pains and stuff. And, you know, those kind of like showing your old age, but in a funny way. You know, there's loads of little character things they could have added or included just to make you care at all. Because like we've said, instead of going 100% knowing each and every one of these characters and seeing their journey and showing their storyline, we've just got 10% of each character.
I just really struggle because I feel that it's almost a laziness in relying on the title of the actual production to sell bums on seats.
That's all it is.
And that's all it feels
like.
It's
a cash in, basically.
And I just feel... Did nobody see this from the outside? Did they not trial it? Because they need to be honest about it. They can't just, for me, because it's new writing, because technically this is new writing.
It is.
You know,
it was written this year.
Yeah, you know, who's telling the playwright that needs tightening up or this, that and the other? If they're just taking the words that playwright's written and going, oh, it'll work because that playwright wrote it, that's wrong. Because when you're doing something like this, you've got to, you're translating it from page to stage. You've got to make it work. And I don't feel like they've put the effort in. They've just relied on the words they've been given. And that's lazy, you know.
Now, what I'd say is, not like I want to defend someone, but I kind of think maybe they didn't know any better. Maybe...
No, but that's where I'm going with it. Yeah, definitely.
Well, instead of saying, like, lazy, I think maybe, like... They did as much as they could because they thought it was okay.
It feels textbook. That's where I'm going. It feels almost like they've come out of acting drama school or they've directed some things that have been straightforward to direct, but they've not done something like this, and it just feels like... I just don't know. I think it's just... It just doesn't feel like...
There were some great moments and some good scenes there.
Yeah, there were.
That's all it was. But I think that was down to the actors and the chemistry they particularly had.
Because of their experience, they've got to pull it out of the bag, haven't they, you know?
Yes, and I think like Paul Nicholas did a great performance, and he was the one that probably projected more along with Rula Lenska. And Hayley Mills, I thought she actually gave a thoroughly good performance and a solid performance. But the only thing with that, she was basically Judi Dench, Dench's character in the film. I think she was a little bit too quiet.
Yeah, and I think I found that from all of them, because I just...
the levels were very hit and miss, but then again, we were sitting right at the very, very back.
Yeah, but they've got to play to the back row.
Surely they'd have mics on.
If you're selling tickets all the way up to the balcony, people have got to hear. You know, regardless of where you sit, you shouldn't just, you know, you're still paying not far off what you're paying for downstairs. But I think it's not just that. It's like you said, it's like you've got to make it into something that's instantly enjoyable, you know. And it didn't have... I didn't feel like the writing had the comedy moments that it had in the films.
Yes.
You know, I don't feel like it had those elements. I think I just struggled with it, to be fair. I expected a lot and didn't get it. Because when you've got people that are very seasoned actors, and we're talking of very seasoned actors, and I felt like there's only so much they can do with the script. It'd be interesting to see what they thought truthfully about the actual...
It'll be interesting to see how long they stick with it.
Definitely, yeah, exactly.
Do you know what we're here for? We're
here for the drama.
So as we've picked upon the acting, which has sort of like intermingled with the directing and the writing, and I thought the person playing Muriel, Marlene Sidaway, she gave a strong performance as basically the Maggie Smith one, and also Rika John Cherian, I think that's how you pronounce her name, Mrs. Kapoor. I always probably felt like she was the strongest.
I did, yeah.
Her and Sonny and Auntie Varman, I thought they were two of the strongest on there, as more so than, what do you call them, expats. I'd also give a shout out to Colin Richmond as well for designing the set.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I'm just trying to...
Just embodied the film. I mean, the thing is, for me, that's probably the main biggest link to the actual... to the franchise, really. You know, that feels like you could have filmed in that and used it as part of the film. You know, it felt like a film set had been brought in, really, in a way. It was that in-depth of a set.
I'm really annoyed because this play would have been perfect for Rula Lenska.
It would.
Had it have been written...
Should have been singing...
Right.
We'd have been singing praises of all these actors if they'd have had so much more, because I thought they could only do with what they were given, and that's the thing.
Exactly.
But to take direction and to say, right, walk forward, say your piece, then go back to your spot that you were stood on or sat on, and then walk forward again and do the same again, and all those things, it was like, I just felt like they were robots.
Yeah, well, I'm not
saying...
I wouldn't say that they were giving a robotic performance, but it did come across as if they were, like, moved around on a chessboard.
Like chess pieces, yeah, it felt like...
Yeah, just doing a bit, and that I would have to say that's down to the directing
It
and
really
the writing, because
yeah.
the performances, they did the performances, but if they're not told how to move, or the language isn't there in the textbook for them to engage in dialogue, then they're not going to have that rapport with the other characters on set.
And not just that, if they had... say, actors are notoriously able to use their creative license and do extra things, maybe they were reined in. And that doesn't help, because it feels like there's a bit of restraint in it, in performance, and I think that, it doesn't help. Because I think in the audience, you had a feel that everybody was expecting it to be funny. People were coming in and laughing and joking and thinking they were building themselves up for great.
Now, I'm going to tell you a little story now. Do you know what was really funny?
What?
For some reason, the two girls that sat next to me, they were laughing, and they were in hysterics.
Yeah.
They were trying to stop each other from laughing, and they were just they had the guffaws, basically, because this woman that was sat in front of me, she had them sweets, didn't she? So not only had we had like a few aisles down, it sounded like some woman just brought a box of Family Circle and dumped the whole box of biscuits on the floor throughout the whole...
Yeah, which it did. It was
throughout the whole first act.
I mean, that was the most exciting bit of the first half, to be fair.
And then the woman in front, she had like the noisiest sweet. It must have been the foxes, or the sticky ones.
Lyceum
mints. The ones that stick to the wrapper.
You find them in your handbag.
And she tried so quietly to unravel it and take it out of this wrapper. But instead of just doing it quickly and it's done with, she drew it out so it made so much noise and it needed to, and after about 5 minutes of just this crinkling and crinkling and and all that kind of stuff, she shoved it into her gob, and then a few seconds later she started choking on it, and then that was it. The girls next to me were howling with laughter, and then because they were laughing, I thought the absurdity of the biscuits falling, her choking on a sweet, the fact that the play was just a farce, not in a good way, our knees were up on noses. I started laughing. I couldn't stop. They tried to stop, so when they stopped, I started, and then I had to stop. And then between us, we got told off from someone behind us telling us to shut up when they were the ones gabbing as well on the phones and stuff.
I mean, I also want to add in that the woman's husband was laughing as well, because his
yeah,
shoulders were going.
He was the worst one, because he wasn't laughing at all.
He was really concerned about his wife. His shoulders were going.
Choked to death.
Yeah,
I'm here for Rula Lenska, not you. Here, have another one. Choke on that sweet. I laughed more at the fact that I wasn't allowed to laugh, but I was laughing.
It was just crazy.
At the stupidity of this.
It really was. It was just
a joke, and the fact that you laugh at the absurdity of watching it play just shows how
just the audience
how crass
and bad
exactly.
It shows you how distracting that was.
Yeah.
Because none of that would matter if it was good.
Well, exactly. People were on the phone. People were turning up late.
Oh.
It already started late. It started at 7:45.
I mean, they didn't miss anything. But
we were here. We sat down at 7:20, something like that. Because we were expecting it to be 7:30. It didn't start till 1:45. And even at 1:45, people were still coming in at bloody 9 o'clock. It's like, where have you been?
But then also at the interval, noticed people didn't come back as well. There was some gap in the audience. So I don't think we're the only ones that had similar thoughts to what we're talking about now.
But. Those two girls next to me, they were lovely. They were so polite and so funny. But it's just one of them things where you just had to be there, where you just can't hold it in, and it's a silly laughter, is what it is.
Definitely,
it's probably one of the funniest nights out I've ever had at a theatre.
Yeah.
Not because of the play.
Yeah.
But
and I think
because of the play.
That's key. As we were leaving after the end of the production, I don't think we're the only ones thinking, "What have we just seen?" Because it wasn't jovial and happy. As we were leaving, the audience were
thankful it finished.
I felt that they were all like, well, we've seen that now.
I don't think they was as appreciative as the Shawshank Redemption audience.
No,
but I felt it was one step up from the Wicked Lady audience, because they were completely hated that.
Yeah, exactly. It was a warm exit, but it wasn't an excited, great performance. You couldn't really hear that. There was more murmurs than outright excitement.
Now, let's talk about the technical aspects. In our next segment...
What the tech is this?
Was there any technical things that cropped up?
I mean, not really. It's another general cover production where, I did think that because the set was so great, the lighting effects that they'd used to enhance that was brilliant.
Yeah.
To make it look and feel like you were in India, and
it gave
the clouded
depth
sky and a lot of depth above the stage, and there was
lighting
a lot
up the archways.
Even simple things like the neon flycatcher in the it just hidden under one of the alcoves.
It didn't even need to be there.
But it was. But that's what you would find in those hotels,
Yeah.
and because they're not fly free or bug free or mosquito free. They'd need that anyway. But to have that linked into the rig, so when it all switched on, that all came on at the same time, so it felt part of the actual setting. So and sound wise, they used sound effects of the road when they went out onto the road in the sort of night. There was bits of music, interludes and stuff like that, but nothing major really. It was nothing unexpected.
I'm very surprised they didn't get a tuk-tuk in this and use that.
I know, and they could have easily got one.
Yeah.
Even if it was a battery powered tuk-tuk, because then that would have gone to the next level. But I just don't. They were the things that it didn't have.
I thought the technical sound was adequate because you had the Indian music. You also had, like you said, when they changed the scene to be either in the telecommunications offices or out on the streets, they had the background music and stuff just to enhance it, just to set the scene when they did place a screen in front of the set to give it a different breakaway. That's probably what they should have done really in Shawshank Redemption.
And it was and I think that's all it was missing.
This everything else for this production was on point. It's just a shame that it was the script,
dialogue and the
a bit of the direction maybe that let everything down a bit.
But I also thought there was things at the nighttime scenes, they made them look good and they increased the background noise for the night, so you felt like it was in the night, and with the odd cricket in the background and stuff like that helped. It just helped create that space.
Yeah.
Anyway,
now for our rewind rewatch, which bit would you like to watch again?
Just when the curtain opened and you saw the lavish set, that'd be it, really, I think.
I would rewatch the woman choking on a sweet.
Yeah, because that had more comedy in it.
I certainly enjoyed myself laughing with the girls next to me.
You were on the edge.
I certainly was on the edge. Moving on now to our next piece.
Call this a show.
So scores then please for the best exotic Marigold hotel, Richard, with 10 being a glorious journey to India and 1 being grounded at the airport. What are you going to give it?
I'd give it a 5 out of 10.
Okay. I am going to give it a 4.
Yeah.
So, what sound effect will you be choosing from the following? A complete train wreck? Tumbleweed? An audible shrug of the shoulders? A slow clap? A pleasant applause? Or a standing ovation? What will it be?
An audible shrug of the shoulders.
I'm going to give it a slow clap.
So there we are. That's our discussion of the best exotic Marigold hotel. We hope you found it insightful.
If not, entertaining.
Coming up over the next few episodes, we will be discussing Dreamgirls,
South Pacific,
and a Nottingham Panto special double bill.
That's it for this week, folks.
If you'd like to drop us a message, please email us at upstagedowstagepod@gmail.com. Remember, you can always join in the chat to share with us your views on a production.
Also, make sure to like and subscribe to our channel so you get every episode the second it's released. And we hope you join us again for another instalment of Upstage Downstage.